Hey folks, out here on my newly groomed trails, I think they're looking pretty slick here, although I wish they weren't here, and I wish the ice storm never happened. If you look up to the canopy, it's pretty much wide open throughout, and what trees are left are often damaged. You can see the ones there, very damaged, these ones here as well, so we've got an awful lot of work ahead of us, so I'm taking a little walk, as I said, figuring out what the plan is for tomorrow to get things cleaned up. Now, I won't get this all done tomorrow, as you know. I probably won't get it done next month, but it'll get done eventually. Now I need to go ahead and take out the logs that are going to go through for the sawmill, take out the logs that'll go through for firewood, separate them into brush piles, and I also need to find something to do with all these root balls. And I think that job is going to be quite the task, and well, I've come to the conclusion that I think I need something else to help me that's going to make life not only a lot easier and a lot more fun, but also a lot more efficient. And I'm going to show you that piece of equipment in just a minute. Now, just to take you back in time a little bit, if you remember, say, maybe a year and a half ago, I had a piece of equipment here that really helped me move logs around. And I'm not talking about the tractor forks, and I'm not even talking about the grapple that goes on the back of the tractor. I'm talking about a log loader trailer. I had two different models of log loader trailer here, and that worked really, really well. Helped me move logs around quite easily. And well, after getting out here in the woods, despite the big excavator coming through and helping me clear trails, knock down trees, I think the whole job of getting stuff moved around, processed efficiently, is going to fall heavy on a log loader trailer. And so I made that big decision. I didn't want to spend the money, but I did. And I dove headfirst into another log loader trailer. The previous two log loader trailers, I got rid of them quite a while ago. And you may not have known that. I didn't really mention that, but it hasn't been around. The log loader trailers, that is, hasn't been around for quite some time. And so I started thinking, what piece of equipment will help me the most get this job done and try to salvage what's left of the wood out here. Because keep in mind, saw logs are worth money. And so I need to get them out of here as quickly as I can before they rot over to the sawmill. Then I've got something of value. Firewood, pine firewood, not quite as valuable. The lumber, though, certainly is. And so that's what I'm going to show you today. Here we go. This right here is the Metavic 1150 M14. This is a 14-foot reach on this, and we've got a 15 RF trailer. This trailer down here matches up really, really well with this. And after a bunch of research, I decided that this would be the perfect size for my application, and it'd be the perfect size for my tractor. Now this trailer, as I mentioned, the 15 RF, that gives me an 11-foot bed, and it also gives me a nice weight. The combined total here, we're floating somewhere around 2,400 pounds, give or take. And so that's a nice weight, because you got to remember, we got to add logs to this. And if we get too big of a piece of equipment here, and then we add logs to it, my tractor won't be able to move it. And this is also narrow enough that it doesn't go outside of the track width of my tractor. And so there was an extensive search that took place, and once I decided I was going to get one, behind the scenes I did all that research, and this ended up being the piece of equipment, the model, the brand, that I decided would suit my application best. Now with that being said, there are other trailers out there, other loaders like this, and there's lots of good options out there, which made the decision even harder for me. Now what it came down to was more or less the complete package. One of the big things that I wanted was something my tractor could handle. I also wanted something that had as much reach as I could possibly get without having too little of lift power. Now, if we look at the top here, 14 feet is pretty long. Now, by the time you get out here, you're wondering how much weight that can still lift at 14 feet. This unit here can still lift 900 pounds at that length. And if you pull back halfway, at half reach, you can lift 2,600 pounds. So that'll be quite the factor in my decision there. Now, some other things here that I liked on this was that 11-foot bed. I often carry around logs that are like 12.5 feet. So that'll give me just a little bit of overhang, but not too much. Also, with that 11-foot bed, this 14-foot loader can actually grab logs that are off the back of the trailer. So imagine they're laying on the ground at the back. I can reach over the back of the trailer, pick it up, and put it back on the trailer. Now the actual loader itself, it's got 270 degrees of rotation, and we've got a 36-inch grapple there. The grapple can actually rotate 360 degrees. We have the stabilizer arms here. So these will come down off both sides, you can see, and you'll see that in a minute when I fire it up. Up here, we've got the folding platform. We got some nice grip on there for the winter. And I like how it folds up like that. What that does is it allows me to put it up out of the way, and that allows me to turn even sharper with the tractor. You can see there, so I can stand up, and then I've got my controls right here. Now, great view, but in addition to that view, you have protection because you've got this checkerboard or checker plate. And so you can see around the side, see over it, but when you need a little bit of protection from branches and debris pushing through, you've got it right there. 8 stake posts here, and you'll notice there's actually holes for 10, but there's 8 of them, so I can move these around. These all swivel, by the way. Okay, so when you're putting a log down here, it'll self-center. Down at the bottom, if you ever have to strap in the load, whatever you're carrying, the logs or something else, you can run it here. Also, if you need to transport this anywhere, you can hook on right there. Walking axles, okay, implement tires, fairly big units there. They'll go through the mud and that. They're quite wide. And overall, just a real stout looking trailer, and one of the reasons I went with it. So with a trailer like this, it's important that I have the width at the same width as the tractor or a little bit less. You don't want it hanging out just in case you forget it's hanging out and you're going through tight bush, and next thing you know, you clip a tree, and that'd be a bad day. Now, one thing we've got here, just in case, is some kickouts. And so at the very least, if you do forget, it's going to bump the side of the trailer as opposed to hitting it head on with the tires. Now, the height here, these units from the ground are 66 inches. And then if you were to drop that loader down as low as it'll go, you're going to be floating right at about 88.5 inches to the upper height there. Now, some things I also liked about this, which kind of influenced my decision, were small details like this. Hard lines, you'll notice across the top here. Now, I don't plan on bashing this into anything, but I do like how it's a hard line, because if I ever get a hole in a line, like let's say this one, instead of replacing this line all the way down, I'm just replacing this section. Likewise up there, you only have to replace one section of it. Some other things I liked as well, you got some guards here. So if you do get some debris, a log right up into here, that will hopefully slow down the damage before it damages one of the lines there. Now, there was a few other things, other options that I had a hard time deciding on. Ultimately, I went without them. One of those options was a winch. Now, Metavic here offers a winch that actually mounts down there in the frame, and I could actually still get it, and I would just install it after the fact. But at the time of ordering this, I decided I didn't want the winch. I think I'm going to rely on other winches that I have. And so at this point I went without, and then I saved myself a few dollars. Now, I also was thinking about an articulating hitch. And basically what happens is you have a hydraulic cylinder which allows this part of the hitch to move. And so what that'll do is it'll allow you to take corners a little bit sharper. But you do require a second set of rear remotes in order to operate that. I decided against it. I thought that based on the length of this trailer, based on my trails, I'd be all right without it. But that took some time to think about. So with that being said, I think we're going to load up a few logs here. I haven't used this yet, and so I want to see how it works. I've seen videos, but I haven't seen it firsthand, and so I'm quite excited to do that. Now, the big decision for me was ultimately the reach. I wanted something that would reach as far as possible, while giving me good lift power, and also having a trailer which was the right size for my tractor. And this kind of ticked all the boxes. So let's put it into action. We'll see how it works. I'm pretty optimistic here. And so I think the first go around, considering I've used a log loader trailer before, hopefully will go without issue. Now, before we actually start, let me just show you how the hydraulics are going to work here. So basically I'm going to start the tractor. Once it's running, down here, so I've got my loader, my front end loader control, but I've also got this lever here. This controls my rear remote hydraulics. And basically it has 2 positions to it. So right now it's in the neutral position in the middle, no hydraulic fluids flowing back there. Once I start the tractor up, I'm going to push it forward. And this is going to allow the hydraulic fluid to start flowing through the loader itself. And now ultimately the controls on the loader will be what moves the grapple. And just one more up close look here at the controls. So you can see we've got the stabilizer arms on the side. We've got the grapple open and close here. And then the left and the right, that's going to be moving the actual boom left and right, up and down. So you'll see that in action in a moment. Now this right here, that's just a position where I can keep that when I'm not using it. But that can be unbolted, and then it comes down here if I ever need to disconnect it from the tractor. You can see we've got that pin hitch there, it rotates. And that's about it. Well, I would say that's pretty good for a start, and you'll notice I didn't exactly hit the mark. That's because I didn't bring the key out for the mini skid steer. I don't keep keys in my equipment, by the way, just a safety thing. You never know who could come out here, whether they're invited or not, and, well, hurt themselves on this, let alone steal it. And so I don't keep keys in equipment for that reason. Anyways, I forgot it, so we had to pile things out of the way so I could get out of here. Using this, though, for the very first time, I am super impressed. I'm just feathering the controls here until I learn them, because I don't have the controls perfect yet. As you could tell, I was doing things backwards periodically, and so I'm going nice and slow. But the good thing is, there's no jolts. It's moving nice and slow when I want it to. And I'm also finding the hydraulics on the tractor are a perfect hydraulic source for this. I've got that on just idle or just above idle, and that's providing me the motion that I need, all the power I could want. And it's certainly nice because, as you saw, I can just drive along, and if I see a log I want to get, I don't have to get out of the tractor, fire up an auxiliary engine, wait for it to warm up, and then go ahead and start picking. I can just go ahead and get out of the tractor, put down the stands, put down the stabilizers, and everything's ready to go. And I like that. I also like that because I'm already maintaining that tractor. I'm going to maintain it whether I have this trailer or not. And so I don't have another engine that I have to look after. And if the engine didn't start, the small engine that is, I wouldn't be able to use this. Well, if the tractor doesn't start, I'm not going to be able to use this anyway. So that's one of the things I'm really liking. I also like that because when this thing is at idle or just above, it's barely using fuel. It's really good on gas. Diesels generally are. And so I think I'm probably going to have some fuel savings there. Now, as I said, you could get an engine with a separate hydraulic tank. I think it's a 9 horsepower engine you can get. And that'd be nice if I had a truck pulling this from time to time. But in my case, it's always going to be a tractor, so I'll always have the hydraulics. And one thing I kind of like. Now down here as well, I'm liking that. When I'm standing up there, I can feel that under my feet, that there's grip. And it's big enough that I don't feel like I can't lean to one side or another for fear of falling off there. It feels firm, and obviously you want it to be firm so you can focus on the controls. Overall, I'm very happy with how things worked out. The 14-foot reach on this thing certainly allows me to reach out and grab logs and pull them in without having to use a winch, and that's kind of nice. The winch is good, it has its place, but it can slow me down a little bit. If I can grab it, all the better. Now this thing has turned out to be one of those purchases that I didn't think I'd initially make. I had no intentions of this. I didn't even have it on my radar up until that big ice storm hit. And then I started thinking about how this whole operation out here, how this red pine forest would get back to normal. And as you remember, I initially thought that I would clean it up all by myself, maybe with some friends' help. And then that idea quickly went out the window once I realized the magnitude of the job and the safety was going to be an issue. The big excavator came in, knocked all the dangerous trees down, left me with, well, great roadways, great piles, but certainly no less of a mess. At least it's a safer mess. As I looked into here and I started figuring out a plan, I quickly realized that the best tool for the job was this thing right here. So I'm really excited to have this in operation. You'll see an awful lot of this over the next little while. I hope to improve on the operation of the controls, but just like anything with time, you get better at it, and hopefully you come back and join me to see that. If you did like this video, give it the old like-a-roo. If you've got one of these, tell me all about it down below in the comments. As always, I do appreciate a bit of a subscribe down below, and I'll see you next time.